you and I both wrote about this article in the New York Times from the weekend about online commenting.
Right.
It was an interesting article because what they were talking about was they were saying that online comments can change the way that people perceive news that they read. So if you have no commenting, then you just read the flat news, but otherwise if people are writing nasty things and so on, that really changes the tenor of the conversation or changes the way that we perceive it. I had one take on it. Let's start with yours. So what did you think of that, and what did you write about?
Well, I found it to be absolutely true and sort of trivially true. I mean, people with passion have always been persuasive, and nasty people very often, bullies very often get their way. My only little quibble, my real quibble was that this was written to suggest, to allow me to infer perhaps, I'll be nice about it, that this was a problem that was unique or somehow created by internet commenting. I just think that human nature infects every new medium, and gee whiz, it turns out that people can pollute the conversation and get other people to believe dumb things just by appearing to be authoritative or stronger. Okay.
You thought that rain makes worms, that it was actually blaming online commenting, and that actually people are Hobbesian, sort of, can be really mean no matter what, but that actually it had nothing to. It was just human nature applied to this medium.
Look, you and I both know how to write stories. When the second paragraph of a story says, and then paradise was lost because God invented commenting, you're setting up a narrative which you can't take away, and in fact they don't even try. So the notion that the internet, and it was cute, it was a cute idea, the notion that the internet was going to be a wonderful place for discussion and debate without commenting, and then commenting came in and ruined everything, is just kind of, it's kind of like not very savvy. On top of that, think of any other situation, any other medium, people in a room, people on talk radio, Fox News.
Talk radio is a great example.
Thing.
Yeah, talk radio is a very good example.
Yeah, I mean, so this is an observation, and I was sort of nasty in my own post by saying that the headline should have been something like, "Oh, nasty invades the internet." Okay, which is not a story.
Well, it's funny. I read it, and there were a couple takeaways for me. When I first started writing ages ago and putting things up online, I actually was worried about comments, and I sort of thought, oh, people are going to be mean, or and I was afraid of what people would say. I realized actually, if you're going to write and you put yourself out there, and particularly people like you and me who write opinion pieces, I mean, I write what I think. Then of course we've got to expect that people are going to push back and so on. And so I actually have begun to embrace it much more. And one of the things I like about the columns that I write on LinkedIn in particular, they seem to get a lot of comments, and I find those really helpful. So of course you get a couple of people, and particularly there are a couple of areas that I might write about where it brings out the worst in people. But actually, generally what I get is really constructive comments. And also different viewpoints. I mean, when I wrote about Groupon, one of the things I liked was people weighing in from different parts of the ecosystem around Groupon, not just investors, but people who had mom and pop shops and people who had other relationships with employees and so on, and that was a great perspective. And so, in a way, I now think of the columns that I write for LinkedIn, for Reuters, for HBR, as conversation starters versus the end-all and be-all of what's to be said on the matter. And so when I wrote about the commenting article, so I got a lot of comments about why people comment and what they like about it, and I thought that was really fruitful. It made me wonder, though, whether one of the things I don't do is I write the column, and people comment. I tend to try not to jump back in to refute what people say in the comments or to get involved with that too much, because I've had my say and I've had my place, and so to me the comments are a place where people can give their thoughts. Do you jump back in and comment?
I do. I always have. We had a lot of comments, as you can imagine, when I was writing and editing at Wired, and I had a responsibility there, an obligation there to sort of tend to the comments which is another very interesting sort of thing that we're still trying to figure out, because commenting, really like the internet itself, is still in its infancy. So I made it my business to make a hobby of ruining people that were being uncivil, simply by outsmarting them and using their own words against them. Because I felt it was important for the community to see that someone was not going to allow a bully to dominate the conversation. Now, whether that had any impact on how the article itself was interpreted is another matter. But this is a matter of, you have to step up and do something short of deleting comments, which you have to do under certain circumstances. But engaging somebody who's being stupid and rude for the benefit of the rest of the audience.
But John, I haven't seen that. I mean, maybe it's just the stuff I'm writing or something, but I haven't seen as many sort of gratuitously nasty comments.
Right.
And I think possibly it's because it's a professional network, people's business lives are connected to it.
Yes, exactly.
Or, you know, you can click on their profile and see who they are, and it sort of stays with them. I've also had people write to me and say that they've commented on something and had business come from it, which I think is really interesting and promising, because it says that actually if you comment as an expert on something, that could be beneficial to you as a professional.
This is another big subject, but of course everything that you do online that remains online, which is everything, becomes part of your profile, part of your professional and personal profile. So, you know, kids, obviously be careful what you write, but yes, especially at places that have a purpose, a narrower purpose, what you say is very much part of being seen to be part of the conversation, which is another reason why just being stupid and saying nasty things ad hominem makes no sense. However, if you can do it under the cover of anonymity, which is allowed in most places, or some places anyway, it's much easier to do that.
So that was one of the things I thought was missing from this New York Times article, was it didn't give me any solutions. So it said that was happening, and of course they were reporting on a study, so that was fine. But to me, it was next steps of, okay, we know people can be nasty, and it's interesting to know that it changes the way you perceive what you read. So no comments versus comments about it that could be positive or negative. But then what happens next? I think part of
I have no particular quarrel with the fact that they don't have answers, because I'm not sure that there are any simple answers. However, it is a call to arms. It is a good reminder that to emphasize that the good work that people do can be jeopardized if you don't take seriously managing the conversation around it. So if we needed a reminder for that, that's great. And people in this business will have to redouble their efforts and speed things up in order to make commenting that minimizes the kind of damage that bad people can do.
So the takeaways then, I suppose, are for people from an individual perspective, commenting can be great because it can also show your expertise and also can change the news for better or worse, the way people perceive the news or the way they perceive a column that's been written. So actually, commenting can be good for the individual if they use it judiciously. And then the takeaway for organizations, media organizations, and places where all of these things appear is you've got to have a proactive and conscious decision about how you're going to handle comments. In some ways, it's possible that having names connected to the comments and professional backgrounds and so connected to the comments helps to tamp down gratuitous nastiness.
Right. But circling back to the main idea here, the very first thing you said is my point, which is if you want to come off in a certain way, it doesn't matter what the medium is. You could be at a cocktail party and say dumb things. You could be at a town hall and say dumb things in an effort to show off, be seen, be heard, alter the conversation. The medium itself, the internet, makes no difference. It's just happening here now because guess what? It happens everywhere humans congregate.
But it makes it permanent. Your point about it making it permanent. So what you say online can't get rid of it. Whereas if you say it in the pub, people may or may not remember it a week from now. So that is one big difference.
That's true. The consequences for you may be greater. However, if all you're interested is in throwing grenades, you don't care.
No, there is that. Good. Well, another good conversation, and I look forward to talking about big stories of the week again soon.
Me too.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.